doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good so far. I'm in the middle of getting everything set up and
Yeah.
ready to go. Looks good so far. In the middle.
I love that about your streams, that you spend some time at the beginning setting up. I really love it. Setting up. Find it very instructional.
Yeah, I try to
Setting up.
try to make it to where I can show the stream while it's being set up too. That way, I can test the audio and everything. Because I think that's what a lot of people. I have a big problem with it too. Is I don't test my audio before I go on. So,
Whoops.
Oh.
What happened to the volume?
You,
Am I still connected?
Oh, you're still there. Hold on. I need back out and come back in. All right.
Oh yeah, there we go. There you sound like you're back.
Okay, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Or not?
Oh man. Let me see if I can send her a message. I think I can. I'm not sure.
Not hearing.
Unmute.
I don't know what's gone wrong, guys.
Send
Can't hear you all of a sudden.
Back out of Jitsi and come back in. There you go. That works. Never did that. That's the first time I've done that. That private message.
What private message?
Bob Dub came in and she lost audio and had to come back in. So,
right, okay.
There you go. Okay,
All right.
I can hear you again.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
What?
There's a bit of an echo. I think sure it was me.
Really? There's an echo. That's odd.
Oh.
An echo when I talk.
Oh, no, it's fine now.
It's fine
That's
now.
fine.
Yeah.
We're just glad to get you back in here. Can you hear me?
Oh, God. It's still right.
Can you hear me, Bob Dub?
Right.
It could be me. Let me back out and come back in. Okay. Yeah.
That's better.
Alright. Do this. And come back in real quick. Yeah, it's probably me. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. That's what it was. I had to come back in. I was the culprit this time.
Yeah. I thought it was you.
It's always my fault.
So it's...
Let me see here. Now I'm gonna hide myself since we got both of your beautiful faces on camera, and I'm gonna go back and check all the stations, make sure we're all set up.
Okay.
So far, it's looking good.
Yay.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So we have Rumble going, Jitsi, or not well, Jitsi goes in here, but we have Rumble going, mine's going, and Odyssey at the same time. So
Oh wow.
we got that taken care of, and then I'll download and put it on YouTube. So it'll go to BitChute after that, and then back over to Rumble again as an upload.
That's right.
Gosh, how cool.
And I put it on YouTube on every Sunday. I always do it, my side of it.
Hmm.
So,
I've learned that's the best way to deal with YouTube because I don't know if you guys are aware of it, but you get better views on streams, live streams with Rumble than what you do on YouTube, and then on YouTube it's the opposite. You get better
Yeah.
upload views.
I
Yeah.
didn't know that. Oh, interesting.
Me and Mark
Kinda-
were playing around with that and found out it was he's into this. These one guys that get on there and do the D&D role playing where they go out there with the clubs and the axes and everything in the parks. And he had me.
Yeah?
He had me look at one of their videos and stuff, and I checked it out. So
Hmm.
now,
I
so
tried
far,
to listen to your first tech talk, Roger.
Oh
It's
my
just
God.
too advanced for me. I just can't keep up, I'm
it's,
afraid.
I
didn't
can't
know
keep
that,
up.
so-
Those guys are brainiacs. I mean, I'm just there as a pretty
You
face.
all are. No,
I'm
no.
I'm just there as a pretty face.
I didn't know you were on TikTok.
No, it's
I
Tech
didn't-
Talk. It's
Huh?
Tech Talk. It's
Oh,
Tech Talk.
Tech Talk. Oh, yeah, Tech
Tech-
Talk. Right,
Tech
it's
Talk.
TikTok. What?
I have that same issue with Rapid. He always says TikTok when he says Tech Talk too.
Yeah,
So
I'm on TikTok. But I don't know why.
Are you?
Yeah. Got about 90 followers, something like that. 90 odd followers.
Wow. Really?
My game stuff, mostly.
Gosh.
It's not my other stuff. It's game stuff.
Mhm.
I should do my other stuff because spiritual stuff on TikTok does really, really well. I should really do
Does
it.
it?
I just haven't got around to doing it. It does do really well.
Oh.
This
Well,
time,
I haven't been able to do it because it's the Chinese,
I think
and
I'm gonna try to get on OnlyFans. Start an OnlyFans account.
really, Roger.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
good luck
yeah.
with that. I hope it goes well for you.
I don't know what my gimmick's gonna be though, because I can't compete. You know, it's like
yeah.
I don't know. Apparently, you don't need to be anything special over there.
the competition is kind of stiff. You know.
Oh dear.
we're on a roll. We're already starting off on a good step.
Uh,
So. I,
Ah, Reggie.
oh no, it's gonna fall.
No.
It's gonna fall off there.
he
He
got
grabbed me
excited.
by his claws.
He got
Why
excited.
did you grab me?
Let me go
See,
grab. Let me go grab my last cup of coffee before we start this. We got like 4 more minutes, and you're starting.
Okay.
You're gonna start, right, Bob Dub?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, Roger on OnlyFans, no, please no. Oh God.
Yeah, I know. I've let that all pass me by. I decided I was just too old.
Yeah,
I think it
don't
was
know anything.
Tinder. It was when Tinder started.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, Tinder
Yeah.
was sort of my son's age group.
oh yeah.
That was, yeah, and I was just like, no, it's
No, I
okay.
ain't bothered
Let,
with that either.
let the children do what the children do. I just
Yeah.
can't keep up with you.
No, I know. I only went on TikTok because my partner's always on it. She hasn't got a page on it. She's always watching stuff on it. So I started.
All
with that.
right. Yes. Yeah. My sister is too. She has 2, I think teenage boys or maybe tweenies or something.
Yeah.
And so they've sort of moved off YouTube. They were on YouTube, but they've sort of found their way onto TikTok. So she has.
All right.
But yeah.
I think that right there, they said it's got a lot of views, but like you got to kind of wonder what's going on there. Like they say it has insane amount of views on it. You can get on there and do
Yeah.
one video and get like thousands of views off just one video.
Mm.
Yeah, I think I've had about 700 views on one of my the gaming intros. They used to do the funny ones. I think that's about the best I've done. I've never really,
Wow.
shared it or anything. Never really bothered with any of that.
Mm.
Oh, before we get started, got good news too. John's volunteered to do a video game interview, by the way.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Thank you, John. Well done.
Yeah.
Cool.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
This time tomorrow.
Oh.
This time tomorrow, he's going to do a video game interview. And Doug
I
said
share all
he's
my secrets.
Oh, yeah.
Ah. I listened to you and Mr. Robot, your interview with Mr. Robot, John.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that was cool.
It was pretty
Wow.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's you can't shock that guy. You need to say something to him and you think, oh, he's going to be a bit like taken aback, and it's like, no, he just takes it in his stride. Oh my god. Nothing shocks him.
Right.
He tripped me out when he pretty much did an interview with freaking Jaffe, and he manhandled him. I was like, oh my god,
Oh,
dude, I can't believe
really?
it. Yeah, he just straight up manhandled Jaffe.
Really?
Yeah, I was like,
Oh,
oh my
right.
god. You know how Jaffe is.
Interesting.
Like Jaffe's real wanting to keep control of his interview and stuff, and next thing you know, he's like, we'll get back to that later, we'll discuss that later, and all this stuff, and I'm like, oh my god, he's just manhandling him. So
Mm.
Interesting. Good. Well, he has medical training, so I think
Yeah.
being a doctor, they teach you those skills, don't they?
mhm.
Did you
Yeah.
notice the bit? Oh, we're about to start, are we?
Yeah, let me do my countdown, and
Okay.
we'll hit record. So
Okay.
3, 2, 1, now.
Hey guys, welcome back to Old Men Talking. I am Bob Dub, and I am here with John and Roger, whose show it is. So I am the guest host, if you like, for tonight. And I asked if we could please today talk about reacting to hard times as older people. Because last week I was really fascinated by the way John and Roger were talking about their past relationships and how they'd had to face up to the toxic bits of their past relationships and how they had transformed their lives and they had made decisions which put them in a place of power and strength going forward into their old age. And I thought that was really, really interesting. And then I caught Roger on Jaffe's show, the Pirate Radio talk about the difference between addiction and substance use and abuse. And I thought that was also going wrong. And it really is, I think, a skill that you develop. I mean, obviously there are people who sort of just grow up with it, but there are also people who've come upon hard times and who've found things really difficult and have had to rise above. And so, yeah, I just thought that it would be really interesting tonight if we had a look at some of the sort of toxic situations that we've encountered and sort of look at starting over. I mean, there isn't really such a thing as starting over. It's always really continuing. But the benefit of age and experience, and if there is such a thing as wisdom. So, yes, welcome everybody, and thank you very much, Roger and John, for allowing me to come and share this time with you. I am really looking forward to it.
I'm glad that you're here. It's pretty good that you. I've always enjoyed you being with us on these shows.
Yeah, me too.
I've always liked it.
They're awesome discussions. They
Now-
are awesome.
now we got to decide which one has to go first.
Well,
Well,
Roger, would you go first? Would you
Yeah.
say something about what you were talking about with the difference between addiction and substance use? Because I found that you didn't really get too much time to explain it.
Well, first of all, it's a concept that a lot of people really don't like to hear, and I say it before I even get into this conversation because, like, everybody is kind of brainwashed into believing something that's just not true. Okay, like back in the 50s and the 60s, you know, when kids got together and they threw a party, it was, well, it was common for kids to come together. They had a party. There was no alcohol involved. You know, you had food to eat. You had stuff like that. And, like, families were okay with throwing parties for their kids or young adults that lived on their own through parties because it wasn't, you know, a sort of thing where freaking booze was accepted. Now, in today's world, you look at it, and if somebody says party, it automatically means that booze has got to be there. I mean, that's without saying, you know what I mean? Somebody's going to have booze. And the whole mindset of it is like a lot of people, they come to this idea that putting drugs and alcohol into your system is natural when it's not. Okay? It doesn't matter if you're an alcoholic or somebody who just abuses alcohol or drugs. That's what it is. It's abuse. Because you're introducing a poisonous substance into your body. It's a freaking alien substance that doesn't belong naturally in your body, and it creates a reaction. Okay? And that happens to you no matter if you're an alcoholic or just a regular drug or alcohol abuser, you know? And that's the reason why people hallucinate. And the reason why they hallucinate is because their body has to adjust to it. And, like, if you've ever heard of people having blackouts, you know, the reason why they're having blackouts is because their body is feeling pain. Okay? And eventually it comes to where your body hits a threshold and you black out so that you forget the pain of what your body's going through. And I had to learn that stuff. So, and that doesn't mean that you're an alcoholic. It just means that you're taking a foreign substance and you're putting it in your body, and it's causing that effect. You know, now the thing that separates an alcoholic from a drug abuser or an alcohol abuser is when you take a look at what it does to them. Okay, like something happens to me once I take a drink. That's all I think about. That's all that rotates around my head. It's the only thing I want. Nothing else matters. Okay, I can sit and talk to you for days, weeks, and months about all this and all that stuff, but in the back of my head, the only thing I want is booze. And I'll do whatever it takes to get that booze. And then I'll overdo it to the point where I'll freaking either pass out drunk, forget who I am, end up missing for a couple of weeks, you know. And you break out into spots when you're an alcoholic. It's called jails, institutions, and freaking alleyways, and, you know, stuff like that. So that's what happens with alcoholics. Now with regular alcohol abusers or drug addicts and drug abusers, you know, what happens with the abusers is they party and then they freaking figure out, okay, look, I'm done with it, I don't need no more. That doesn't happen with an alcoholic or a drug abuse or a drug addict. They don't see that, you know what I mean? At a certain age, most people who abuse drugs and alcohol, they say, you know, I'm getting too old for this stuff, and they leave it alone, you know. That's also another thing that separates them. And that's what I what I've learned about it, and that's what I know to be the truth. You know, I've been away from drugs and alcohol for 20 years. Okay, but I know exactly what moments in my day I would actually be drunk if I was still drinking. Now I know that sounds weird to understand, but like I can tell that if I was right at another time, I would have been drunk. You know, for situations I've been in and stuff like that, and that's never gone away. You know what I mean? So, and I know regular drinkers don't experience that. They don't know that. You know, 20 years away from alcohol, and I still have drunk dreams. You know?
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So somehow it's like a craving. Do you?
No, the craving's completely gone.
Okay.
Craving's
okay.
completely gone. It just pops into my head when I'm asleep. Like, you know, and they're different too from when I first quit. Like now, I'll have a dream where I'm in the dream and I got drunk, and I can't remember if I've been sober for freaking 20 years or if it was just a lie. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I forgot I drank this time, when I know I didn't in reality. But in my dream, I'm telling myself that. Just weird stuff like that, you know? And it comes and goes every once in a while. Not like all the time, you know? Like every once in a gray moon I'll have those dreams, but it's still there.
That's amazing to me. So I was thinking that you'd overcome this issue, but the way you're speaking, it's like every day is overcoming the issue.
Yeah,
it's not something that's in your past.
Yeah, you can't like you can't say that it's done and over with, you know what I mean? And they've got a saying that says, once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. And the thing is like right now I'm sober, but the moment I pick up any drug or alcohol, I go back to the same person I was when I was doing that. You know what I mean? I'll revert right back to that. So, and I have to make sure that I don't do that on a day-to-day basis, sometimes a minute-to-minute basis, but you know, it's you know, Robot even said it's really like alcohol and drugs are just a symbol. You know, there's an underlying problem that I use that drugs and alcohol as to take care of, you know what I mean? So I have to take care of those problems in order to not want to drink. That's what I was basically getting at.
Yeah. So people say that like I've been around a lot of people who've drank and used drugs. My second husband was always drunk, and so I've thought about it a lot. But people say that people use drugs and alcohol when they're already in a state. There's this perception that if you use drugs and alcohol, you'll wreck your life. But I've heard that your life gets wrecked, and then to try and cope, you turn to drugs and alcohol. Do you agree with that?
Not really. You know what happened the first time I smoked pot? You know what happened the first time I smoked pot? I found my best friend, dude. I loved alcohol and drugs from the very first time I did them. Okay. There was no, you know, oh, I had a problem, so I needed to get drunk. A lot of people use that as an excuse. Okay. But the truth of the matter is I freaking loved them the moment I had my first joint, or I smoked or drank my first beer. and that's the way it was with me, you know.
Mm.
So when it comes to that, I don't believe that.
It's so fascinating that you have these ideas when you're dreaming. You have thoughts of being drunk when you're dreaming. Because John, you've talked about having spiritual experiences in your dreams,
Yeah.
which is just sort of like the other side, the other side of the coin, almost.
Yeah. So speak. Yeah, I suppose it is. Yeah, in that sense. We're getting back to the subject about alcohol and drugs. I would have been about 25. I had what do you call it, blow or whatever you call it, with a few friends of mine, marijuana, whatever it was, a few friends of mine. Never actually bought it in my life for myself. But in one particular week, I had it about 3 or 4 times. I went to see my auntie in hospital, who had an operation, and she was on, I don't know, she was morphine or something. She's on some painkiller drip, and I found myself, even though I've never had it in my life, I found myself craving whatever she was having for a pain relief. And as soon as I did that, that was it. I left that hospital, and I never touched blow anything like that ever again. Never touched anything again. That was like a tipping point for me. And with drink, I was at the point. I was at the point that if I kept good drinking like I was, that I was going to become alcoholic. But I didn't stop. I just like pulled myself away and reduced the amount I was drinking. And eventually, like now, I've stopped for 8 years. But I wasn't drinking hardly anything the last few years before I stopped. I cut it right down, you know. Now I've stopped fully for 8 years. But I was fortunate to be shown, if you carry on like you are, you're going to end up alcoholic. So I drastically reduced it. I think I went a few weeks out drinking, and I just cut right down the amount I was drinking. And then eventually I stopped. But
Wow.
but to say, Roger, I totally get where he's coming from, you know. I understand it, you know. Some people, I think, do use drink and drug as an escape. I do think that they may have had troubled lives. I do think in Roger's case that wasn't the case. No, in my case, I have used drink as an escapism. Yes, certain situations, because when I saw my auntie that time, and I said I was craving what she was, you know, drugs she was on, it brought back memories to me of my mother then, because seeing my auntie in hospital, and on the next 2 days I just got blind drunk. To escape it. It was in my mind again. You know, someone's hospital. It was like, you know, bringing it all back again and stuff like that. But that's when you're younger. That's what it's like. You know, you've got scars with me of the hospitals. My mother was always in hospital and stuff, and I got also emotional scars with a girl. I said before on camera. A girl I was dating who two-timed me 2 weeks after we got together. After 2 weeks after we got engaged, she started going out with her friends and stuff after that. And I'd been with girls before that. We used to go out with her friends, didn't bat an eye, and never give her a second thought. But because she two-timed me, I was really insecure, and it really affected me. And then even so, relationships after that, it affected me. I was with different girls, and they would go out. I wouldn't like show it so much, but in here it was affecting me. But as I've got older, it doesn't bother me at all now. My partner it's very rare she goes out anyway, but if she does, it doesn't bother me at all. Not even for a heartbeat now. But even now, I still can see myself when I see she's going to be going out, like withdrawn a little bit away from her before she goes out. I still do it now, and it's like how many years? It's 30 odd years ago since, you know, the events of you know, the origins of this pain was. Yeah, I still feel myself like. But outwardly, it doesn't bother me at all. I don't even think about it now because I'm older and white. I don't, you know, because it doesn't. But it's still a little bit of me, sort of like, oh, you know, pulls away a bit. I was conscious of it the other day, and that's why I wanted to share that to you today, because the subject was about how we view things like trauma, or not trauma so much, like toxic situations from years ago to like now, and that's how it's. That's how I am like now. So I'm like now. So
And see, I agree with him on that part where, like, the last part he talked about, where he freaking said that that's what I was talking about. Like, there's times where I know if it was another time in my life, I would be drunk right then and there. You know what I mean? And that's what I relate to when he says that, because like for him, he actually could recognize that feeling and he stopped it. You know what I mean? And that's pretty much the same exact kind of thing, you know. And like I like I said, it goes back to being an alcohol abuser or drug abuser compared to being an alcoholic and a drug addict. You know, going on binges when bad things happen is something that a lot of people who drink and do drugs do. You know what I mean? They do go on a bender, but like alcoholics are the ones that you don't want at a party, you know what I mean? Drug addicts are the ones sitting in a crack house, and all these other crack abusers are saying, "Look, dude, this guy's got to go." You know, you're pretty bad when you're getting kicked out of a crack house. And I've met people like that, you know, when I was in rehab and stuff. And drug addicts didn't even want them around, or drug abusers, I should say, didn't even want them around, you know. So like. That's the scale is basically what I'm saying. Like, you can tell the difference, and it is a complete difference between the two. There is a difference between a drug abuser and a drug addict, just like an alcoholic and an alcohol abuser. And for me personally, all I'm saying is I never had that period where I was just abusing alcohol. You know what I mean? That's me specifically. So, and nobody can explain that stuff to you. Okay, I'm doing my best to, but I can't explain it to you. The best I can tell you is something happens when I put alcohol or drugs in my system, and nobody knows what it is. Doctors can't tell me. Psychiatrists can't tell me. Your church people or your pastor, they can't tell you. None of them know. They'll do their best to explain it, but they don't know the truth about it. I mean,
Right.
Nobody does. You know? And for like the dream thing, when it comes to the opposites, like with John and the things that he dreams about, you know, that are positive compared to the ones that are negative for me, you also have to remember one thing, you know, for every one of us. Well, actually, this is a good question to ask John, instead of me getting. Now, John, do you believe that for people, they can actually subconsciously lie to themselves?
Subconsciously,
Your
no.
mind, you think your mind can lie to you? Try to lie to you to get you to do something you're not wanting to do.
Your mind, maybe, but not your subconscious. No, your mind possibly. It's really hard. I don't. It's a really hard question, really. In what format do you mean? What way that you've been like? In what way is the life coming from? What sort of direction? What's
Okay. Well, not talking about alcohol and drugs. Say
Okay.
say you really want to go out and buy something, and
Right.
you know that you have to stick to a budget. But
Okay,
there's
yeah.
that thought in the back of your head saying, well, man, all you got to do is this, and all you got to do is that. You know what I mean? Lie to you so that you could actually cave in and do it.
Yeah, it's like temptation, so to speak. Yes, we all get that. Yeah, it's not your mind though. It's like sort of, how can I explain it? Um, um, we all inherit we are obviously in our minds and our bodies, in a sense, but we're like how can you say? So you know, you walk down the road and you see someone, and then you talk to them. Yeah, you see someone, and it's like that mentally. There's like beings all around us, spirits all around us, and occasionally that you sort of you like bump into them spiritually in your mind, so to speak. You bump into them, and they might not be so good, and they're the ones saying, "Do you want to? Do you want to? Why didn't you try this? Why didn't you do this?" It's sort of like that. It's like a maybe a subconscious, maybe it's a subconscious battle. I don't know. It's something on that lines. It's to do with say we're alone in our own bodies and our own minds, but we're linked to a greater world out there, and sometimes we sort of like stumble upon others in this world, and I mean they may not be the sort of best people around, so to speak, like the spirits, so to speak, and they're the ones maybe tempting you to do this, do that, because they want to see you fall, see you fail. I don't think it's actually yourself, your own, your actual inner being. I don't think it's from outside sources, but I can't really explain it very well. Because I've had really bad things come in my head, and I know it's not me, and then usually I see the spirit that's trying to do it. I see it, but not always. So this is why I think it's that, because most people will get these things in their heads or temptation, but they don't see what's doing it, whereas I usually can, or most of the time can. If that makes any sense. You know what I mean?
Makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
We're in a battle all the time. It's a battle around us all the time. There's a spiritual war going on all around us. We don't see it, but it's there. And sometimes that war, they would be like a battle for our own souls. We don't even realise it. And this is why these little temptations come in, because they want you to go off your path. They want you to do this, to do that, go back drinking again, or spend money you don't have, or which will then lead you to a worse place mentally, because you go to despair or what have you. You know what I mean, or cause you to rob someone because you've spent the money on the item you didn't really need, but you got tempted to do it. Stuff like that. It's all. That's my perspective of it. In a way, I've lost Bob.
That was good, actually.
Yeah, I don't know.
Fascinating. In what I've been learning with the Buddhist idea of it is, apparently, according to the Buddha, our mind is a whole committee. It's not just one train of thought. It's all these different things. And so he talks about all these little subtle tricks that the mind tries to play on itself. And one of the points of meditation is to observe your mind, so you can start recognizing all those different voices that give you those different hints. So it's interesting to me hearing you talk about it as being other spirits, because I also feel that things happen in my brain and I think, that can't be me. I'm not that person. I'm just not that. And yet it was in my head. So obviously I am that person, so it's weird.
It's again on the same sort of subject. We're all allegedly related. We're all like one with the source. So technically, from what you said about the Buddhist teachings, that's theoretically right. It is part of us. That spirit that maybe is doing this is technically, we're all related. We're all one, but he's like maybe on the other side of the coin to us. So technically, the Buddhism is right, because it's we're all like one. We're all like on a silver cord to the source. All of us are. We're living on this planet now. So technically, we're all. It's like it's hard to explain it. It's like umbilical cord for a woman carrying a baby. That's what it's like for us with the spirit world. We're accorded to it all the time, and we're sending for stuff from us. It's going to there and it's coming back to us. It's like a communication feed, so to speak. Amongst other things, of course. That's my perception of it. So I don't know. I got some really ideas sometimes.
It's pretty good stuff. The one thing that sticks out to me too, and I tried to talked with Karma about this once, is on a physical level. I think that everything is connected physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Okay.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
The one thing that a lot of people neglect to think about is the physical aspects. And like in the brain, okay, we have receptors. Okay. Now, Dr. Jung gets into the whole thing about the God conscious, and it's also been mentioned about the receptors that we have in our brain that connects all these thoughts and everything together, you know what I mean? Now, I've had the thoughts every once in a while about these receptors. Maybe they're capable of doing things far a lot more than what we know they're capable of doing. People, like for example, when they're debunking paranormal situations, they go in and they'll see what the carbon levels are in the house. You know what I mean? Well, that's the problem. You're not seeing ghosts. You've got high carbon levels. Well, in my opinion, I'm thinking, well, what if the carbon levels are actually inducing a situation where they're capable of seeing ghosts? You know what I mean? It could be the opposite as well. So I don't think that's a valid argument when it comes to carbon monoxide. You know what I mean? Because that could actually be causing them to where they're either hallucinating or they are seeing ghosts. Either way, I mean, you never know. So that's something I wanted to mention. That was a good.
That's fascinating. And you know, like life forms are made out of carbon. So if there's lots of carbon, then no wonder your brain or your perception interprets that as being a life form, even if it's a deceased life form. That's fascinating. I find it's really weird how people use words. They say you see a ghost, and then they decide what a ghost is. But you see a something, don't you?
Yeah.
You're not sure what it is, but you saw something impinged upon your senses.
I believe that. And like, have you ever had those moments where you see something out of the corner of your eye, and then when you look back at it, it was gone?
Yes.
yeah,
You know.
daily.
Yes. Yes.
But I get to the stage now where I see the things now. Just sometimes, anyway. Sometimes.
So.
Right.
Moment
Wow.
of clarity for me, okay, is one thing that I believe is important too. Like having moments of clarity comes more than once in your life, and I think that over time people have these certain moments of clarity where they can actually see things for real for that split moment. You know what I mean? So
Yes. Yes. You sort of see with spiritual eyes, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it definitely happened to me with drink and drugs, definitely. It was like someone was there, look at this, look, and it was like, see, look where you're at and look where you're going to go if you don't, you know. And it was definitely, wake up call, you know.
So I was on antidepressants for 20 years, and from the moment they gave them to me, I knew that they were doing me harm. They made me stupid. They made me not be able to think. I was always sedated. I used to sleep about 16 hours a day. It had huge negative consequences. So I kept on going back to the doctor and saying, these aren't working. And so they give me a higher dose or a different drug. And anyway, so after about 16 odd years, I found some, because I was trying to get off them the whole time. I found these research papers that were talking about how cannabis had been used to treat post-traumatic stress disorder. And so I started smoking weed, and it was absolutely incredible. From the first time I had a cigarette, a joint or whatever you call it, the very first time I felt things happening in my brain that hadn't happened for years. I felt ability to think and ability to perceive. And I have managed to get myself off all the psychiatric drugs that I was addicted to and that were really, harming me. But the negative part is that I now take weed instead of those. So basically, I've swapped one kind of drugs for another kind of drugs. And the interesting thing is, for me, was that no medical health professional has been able to help me with the right dose, the right thing, something that's been good for me. There have been some good parts of taking the medicines, but there's been a negative consequence at the same time. And I'm sort of at the place where I'm starting to think that the price that you have to pay is just too high. And it's just a pity that there isn't some way that you can get the help without having to pay the price.
Yeah.
Now, see, for me, I don't want to say, to anybody that don't go to the doctors. I don't want to say that, because there are some people who have some seriously bad issues. But when it comes to what you're discussing right there, I know that there are people who use drugs to medicate themselves. You know what I mean? But I also know what was taught to me. Now, a lot of people don't understand what they're hearing when they're hearing the word mental illness. Okay, the key word is illness. Now, mental illness is not a disease. It's not something that's uncurable. And a lot of people have been put in the mindset that freaking if you have a mental illness, you're going to suffer from that for the rest of your life. And that's just not true. Illnesses can be taken care of and cured. Now, if it was a disease, or there's certain degrees of disease, and there's some that you're just going to have for the rest of your life, but they're not saying mental diseases. They're saying mental illnesses. So in that aspect, there are solutions to it. And the one thing that I learned was one human being reaching out to another. Get with people who have gone through the experiences you've gone through, and just talk, relate your experiences with one another, become active. For me, I had to go on 12-step calls when it come to sobering up. I actually had to go to hospitals where people had freaking jaundice and their skin was turning yellow, and freaking sitting in a hospital bed, and too drunk to freaking leave their house and terrified. Go out to them and talk to them and say, look, man, if you want to come with us, we can take you to a meeting, and that right there is another thing. Get involved, try to talk to other people, if nothing else. Just the thing of it is it, no matter how much you say it, you need other people need you, and that's one of the best ways to take care of mental illnesses, drug addiction, things like that. Just reach out to be of service to your fellow man is what it is. That's one of the best remedies that you could ever do. I don't know if that's good or not.
It's brilliant. There's a fellow called Johann Hari who gives a really, really excellent TED talk that's called Everything You Know About Addiction Is Wrong. And he talks about his early experiences of trying to wake up a relative who wasn't ever going to wake up again, and how this has sort of shaped his whole life research, I suppose, into what addiction is. And he says that he says the same thing as you, Roger. He says that when they did all the experiments with rats in cages and cocaine, what somebody came along and said, but hold up, you're putting these rats in cages, and the only thing that they've got to do to entertain themselves is take the drugs. What if we put them in a different environment where they had a whole lot of other things that they could do and put the drugs in there? Would they still take the drugs? So they took these addicted rats and they built something called Rat Park, which had games and rats and entertainment of all rat descriptions. And they found that the rats just spontaneously stopped taking the drugs as they started getting involved with their little rat friends.
Mm-hmm.
And so he says what you've just said is that the answer to addiction is connection.
Mm-hmm. Now,
and he's
just what I've learned is there is a process. You hear the word process all the time, okay? And there is a process. And 12 steps is a good example. Now, a lot of people don't understand what those are actually about. It's honesty, open-minded, and willingness. Now, if you talk to a regular religious person, they understand what those three words together mean. I didn't understand it because I was stupid, you know what I mean? But you ask a preacher what that means when you put those three words together, and what it is remaining teachable, okay? You have to be honest with yourself first, then you have to be honest with the people around you, you have to be open-minded, and then you have to have the willingness to change. Now, change and remaining teachable is the important thing. That's the first thing you have to do, and with those three things. Now, this is where it gets tough, though, because then you come to the fourth step. The fourth step means that you have to take an inventory of yourself, okay? You have to admit to another human being your character defects, where you played the part in all these situations that you had resentments for. So first, before you start doing all that, you got to freaking take a look at the things that you're resentful for, and you have to write them down. And then you have to turn around and go to another human being and tell these people, look, man, this is what I have a resentment for. And then this person, you need to trust them. You need to get their feedback, okay? So when they turn around and they hear this stuff, they're going to have to give you positive feedback to what you're telling them, so that you can go further and figure out what it is that you have to do. And then you have an inventory of all of the character defects you have. The people that you've done wrong is next, okay? You have to freaking look through these people, and they'll tell you, look, you don't need to mess with this person, but this person you need to go back to, and you need to get an amends from. And when you do that, what happens is you're asking another person to forgive you, so that you can get rid of the resentments that you're carrying around with you. You see what I mean? Because now you know what part you played in the situation. So instead of you know what I mean? Instead of you looking at that person and saying how horrible that person was, then you're stopping and say, hold up, man, he might have been in the wrong, but let's take him out of the picture entirely and look at myself. This is where I played the part. You know, and that's hard. That is hard.
Gosh, that is so hard. Roger, I have that when I first started looking for help. It's here in New Zealand, which is very, very feminist country and socialist as well. And when I started looking for help, there was, there probably still is now, but there was a very strong message back then, was that one person in a situation gets abused, and that person is the victim in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's taken me about 10 years to realize that that's completely wrong. Is that when you're in an abusive situation, you're both abusers.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it was huge to realize that I had contributed to the dysfunction of my marriage. And that even though I had felt all these years that all this violence had been done to me, that I was actually a participant. And it was only when I got to that stage and I sort of like bucked the system and said to my psychologist, look, you're wrong. You're actually wrong to keep on excusing me like this. I have to face up to the fact that I lost my temper. I did these things too. I wasn't just this absolute saint. And
Right.
man, that was so hard. That was so hard.
Now, the key to that though is letting it go. I would suggest in situations like an abusive relationship, you just write yourself a letter. Write a letter where you forgive the abuser. Take it out and burn it. And when you burn it, you are done with it. You've forgiven that person, and that'll cause the resentments to go away.
Mm.
Just a suggestion, though. It's one that a lot of people I know in
Really?
the program have used.
Use that. Yeah.
Because you don't want to put yourself in that situation. It's called leading with the chin. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to put yourself in a situation where it hurts you. So don't ever do that to yourself when it comes to these kind of things.
Mm. Mm.
I'm going to shut up and let John talk.
I'm fine. Listen to you too. It's fine. I don't really have it. I've never taken anything like medication, like Bob has. I haven't been an alcoholic. I haven't been a drug addict. So it's really hard for me to sort of not understand, but to have any input into it. If you know what I mean. It's really hard for me to
Mm.
share anything on this because I don't really have any information on it. Because
Yeah.
I'm not in that position.
But don't you agree, John, that it does take time? This is a conversation that we're having as older people.
Yeah.
Like, I would never have been able to get to this place, to get to this place of trying to rise above those issues without the time. It's taken me years.
Yeah. But as I said to you before, everyone's got their own time clock. It might have taken you years. It might have taken somebody else longer than yourself. Another person might have done it quicker. Doesn't make him any
Yeah.
better or worse than you. That just everyone's got their own clock. There's no, So I think it's part of the good stuff of being older. You wiser.
Yeah.
You learn from mistakes. You don't make them so much as you did when you were younger. I think it's all part of the process, so to speak.
Mm.
But the medication that you were on, it was you're taking it because it's supposed to suppress certain parts of your brain which cause whatever issues you had, this depression or whatever. I can't remember what you said it was now. You know what I mean? But they're like a general thing for like a typical man woman. That this is the typical thing that will help them. Everybody's different. Everybody's brains are different. Everybody's and you, as you said yourself, you knew it wasn't right for you, but you just didn't have any other way really out at the time, to find another solution. I remember my ex-wife went on medication because she was suffering with depression, and I said to her at the time, no, it's no good, you don't need it. I said, don't need it. And she came off it, and she wasn't on it for long, and she did come off it. So there we go.
So what do you think that it takes, John? What do you think that it is that makes wisdom? Do you think it's just life experience?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Also, if you meditate, you can ask for wisdom. Sometimes you get it's a gift as well. You can get it from it, but you can also it's also a spiritual gift, wisdom as well. It's two sides of it. Much with me. Um, but yeah, experience is the biggest thing, of course. Yeah, it's got to be, you know. So to all of these problems we have, you know, there's the solutions like Roger's done to get out of his addictions, and he's done really well in all fairness. And solutions that you've done with your, you know, with getting off the medication. The solutions you found solutions, which is great. There's also, as I said before, spiritual solutions for this stuff as well. But that's you've got to be in the right place to even think about that. You've got to be in a certain place to even think about that. You can't think about stuff like raising your vibration when you're knee deep in drink. You can't do it. It just doesn't happen. You cannot do it. You know, you're too far away from your connection to do that properly. But once you get past if you get past your addiction to a degree where you're no longer so involved in it, then it's a different story. But even with Roger, with the fact now he has dreams about it, I still believe it's easier to say than to do it. But if your vibration gets raised to a certain level, you wouldn't have these dreams. The dreams or he'd see the dreams, and it would be like, oh, I don't need you anymore, you know. And they just push. It's happened to a neighbour of mine. I don't know the full details. He went through some sort of abuse when he was young. I don't know the full details, but it's affected him all his life. I've been trying to help him, and one day he said, there he was one night. He saw the dream in front of him, the dream he always has about whatever abuse he went through. Something told him, you can either go there and carry on dreaming this like you've been dreaming it for the last 40 years, or you can go this way and go away from it. And he chose, oh, I'm going to go this way away from it. And he said that was the first step, he said, that I've positively taken to get rise above that trauma. And that's what he's trying to do now. But for years, 50 years, I must have been 50 years, 70 now, he must have been 50, 60 years, not every night, every so often, stuck in that dream again, that trauma again, reliving it. And then one day, he said something's told him, you don't have to go there anymore if you don't want to, you can go this way. And he just switched directions. Mm-hmm. So I'm just saying it can be done. I'm not saying it does for everyone, but it can be done, you know. And I actually self-plug here. I got a good video tonight about trauma as it happens, and my perception of it, similar to what I was just talking about now. Pure coincidence. I think that's the one I got coming tonight anyway. And yeah, so I'm just saying I know that you can, even if you've been stuck in a repetitive cycle for years, for half your life or 3/4 of your life, you can get out of it. It's never too late. Just say everyone's got their own clock to do this. And it can be done, because raising your vibration, and I'll keep saying about it, it basically raises your mind, your mental outlook. It's hard to do it. It's hard to get when you get there to stay there. But when you do it, it raises your mental outlook. So all little things that used to bug you when you were younger, little things like little fears, I think, was he talking about me, or what, did I upset them, or you get to a point you think, I don't care. It doesn't matter. You really, it may sound like aggressive, or you just don't. They don't matter. I got shown that ages ago. It just came to me one day. I was thinking about something, and I messaged from the other side. It doesn't matter, and I got shown it. But you don't tell you. They just show you these things, and they show you. It don't matter, and it's like, wow. Totally right, and it doesn't, and they don't bother me so much now like they used to, But that's just my perception. I'm lucky to be the place I am, and I've had such difficult lives as you both have, so that's I'm in the position I'm in now. But doesn't mean that I can't help people, you know what I mean? And I do when I can. So.
Well, when I hear you talking right there, I hear change. You know what I mean? Everything that you were just discussing has to do with change. And I mean, that's, I think, what a lot of people have a hard time with. Like, you know, when you were talking about your buddy, I knew an old story. It says you got one dog on your left shoulder, or a good dog on your left shoulder, and a bad dog on your left shoulder or right shoulder, whichever one.
Yeah.
And you get to choose which one you want to feed. You know, and that's really what it comes down to. But like I said, I mean, those dreams I have, they're not every, you know, they're in a great blue moon, you know, really far apart.
That's good anyway.
The situations when I go through them and they get like overwhelming and stuff like that, they cause that to happen usually with me and stuff like that. But it's moments when I'm at my weakest, when I'm asleep, and you know, things like that.
But,
so,
but Roger, next time you see this dreams in front of you, look for the way out.
I've actually done that a couple times.
Yeah, good. That's the major step to stop having them. Is look, there's always a door out. There's always a way out. You don't have to. You just look for the doorway. Just get out of it. You know, just get out. So, yeah, and you can say you've done it anyway, so you know. I don't have to explain it because you already know that. Then, so that's cool.
Now, the one thing that helps me too is like I don't like the thought of other alcoholics calling me a dry drunk. You know, that's a sign of being a dry drunk is when you start having drunk dreams over and over again. So if you start having drunk dreams, it's time to change. It goes back to change. You know, it's something in your life's got to change, because if it doesn't, freaking, it's going to end up bad. So. I do appreciate that.
I like how you say it's that the answer is spiritual, John, because Roger, isn't the first step to turn to the spiritual realm?
You have to admit to yourself that you're powerless. That's important. Yeah. That's what kicks people in the butt. They think they got control when in reality they don't. Like we were talking about the bus, you know what I mean? Like you're sitting at a bus stop and the bus always shows up 10 minutes late or 10 minutes early, and you get pissed off because that bus never shows up right on time, you know. Well, what power do you have? You can call the bus depot and make a complaint about it, but it still doesn't guarantee the bus driver is going to show up right on time, you know. So for me, that's the best way I've been able to describe it. It's kind of like somebody going to a drive up in a fast food joint, and they get up there and they freaking are in the drive-through and they make their order. So when they get over there, they're getting frustrated because it's taking so long for their order to get cooked and sent out to them. But when it finally does get to them, people working there are rushing them, wanting their money and pushing all this food at them. So now it's gone from being not getting their food quick enough to, hey man, you're rushing me. Well, you got to make your mind up. Do you want your food now, or do you... You know what I mean? Are they going too fast, or are they going too slow? That all has to do with people thinking they have control. It causes frustration, you know, causes you frustration and misery.
There was
fascinating.
There's long time ago, after my mother and father were divorced, there was a chap my mother was going out with for a few years, and they broke up, and he was homeless. So basically, my mother, being the good person she was, she let him and his new partner just stay, you know, sleep in the living room. It's just to sort of, so they had a roof over their temporary till they found somewhere to live. And I'm not sure what happened, but I basically woke up because I heard like arguing and shouting, and I saw this person, my mother's ex, then hit my mother in front of me, And I've relived that memory so many times until the last time I relived it. When I went in there, even though when I was only like I was 8, 9 year old, I was terrified of a little kid, you know. I went in there and I just went over to him and I said, "I forgive you." I never had to dream again.
Wow.
Never had it again.
Wow.
Never had
Okay,
it
I
again.
was not expecting that,
Yeah.
John.
I never had it again.
Incredible.
I basically took the power away from him in my dream. It didn't happen in reality because this was like 40 years later, 50 years later. But in my dream, or on reflection of it, I just took the power off him, and I forgive you, and I've just never had it again.
That's what it's about. Because see,
Yeah.
when you have a resentment, you're allowing that person to rent space in your head. So when you, the opposite of being resentment is forgiveness. Two things can't or two opposites can't occupy the same space.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And
it's part of the process I have to go through as a healer. To be a healer, you've got to be healed as much, probably more than a normal person, because you can't go too far as a healer if you can't self-heal. You have to self-heal, and that was one of the things I had to do. It just happened to come my way, and I knew I had to do it. So that's why that probably happened. Perhaps it would have still been in my brain for the rest of my life. Otherwise, who knows? I don't know. But yeah.
that's
So yeah.
So after you've forgiven and after
Yeah.
you've forgiven everybody, what do you do next?
I just move to the next situation then. If there's any more, just move to the next situation. I suppose, because it's not something you're really conscious of. It just sort of happens. You just don't really think about it, you know. It just sort of happens. Basically, all the trauma I had when I was young, I dealt with it all in various forms. Of my mother's death, she died in front of me, and this stuff like this, which has emotionally scarred me. I've dealt with it all, even down to the level of grieving for my mother. It's virtually, because she's shown herself that she's still around to me. It's virtually, not to say zero, but close to zero as will ever be. Is like a virtually zero grief now. Whereas up until I had a sign for my mother, and the sign, various signs I've had over the years now, I had a lot of grief, which I held on to for like 30 odd years or more. And like now it's virtually gone. So it's, again, it's just as fact, because you're a healer, you got to do these. You don't have to, but I think it's just important to do this. How can you heal people who are going through like something and you can't do it yourself? And that's the answer I get. You know what I mean? How can you tell people that they can not get over grief, but they can make it so grief isn't so painful to them as if you can't do it yourself? You see what I mean? And like Roger's saying about how he's turned the corner from where he used to, the drink and drugs, because he's done it. He can talk about it to other people maybe out there who are in the same situation, but they're still in it. And if he stops one person, if he turns one person's life around, my God, that's so rewarding. That's what it would be for me anyway. And I bet he already has. You know what I mean? It's like that's what we're here for, isn't it? We're here to help other people, because we're all we're all here together, so to speak. You know, if you can help a fellow person, as I said to you earlier about that little boy that I helped the other day, it was so touching. You know, he was so you know what I mean? It's like what you're on the earth for. You know what I mean? It just makes it worthwhile. You know what I mean? It's just thinking, wow. You feel like you're making a difference, like, you know what I mean? It's just little moments like that really make you feel, okay, that's good. You know what I mean?
And see,
It didn't inflate it, or it didn't inflate your ego. It just made me feel humble, which is
yeah,
good. In the old days, like my ego would be up here, but not anymore. Just I feel humble. I feel, great by it. Sorry, what do you go?
now that's the last part that I had to learn, is being of service to your fellow man. And that's what John's doing when he's going out and healing, being a healer. With me, it was about service work, and that's really where it counts. I have to be of maximum service to my fellow man. You know, there's a story that I can tell you guys, and it's the best way to do it. You know, the guy's walking down the street and he sees a hole in the middle of the street, and this guy's down at the bottom, and he looks down and he goes, "Hey man, you need help?" And he goes, "Yeah man, throw me down a rope or something." You know, the guy hears him say that, and he just jumps down in the hole with him, right? And the guy goes, "Man, why'd you do that? Now we're both stuck down here." And he looks over at him and says, "No, we're not stuck. I've been down here already. I can show you how to get out of this hole."
Oh,
Oh, how
brilliant.
cool. Oh,
That
I
is
love
brilliant.
that.
It is.
You
Oh,
know,
I
that is brilliant.
love that.
just
No, I
So-
can't be of service, I have to say. I've managed to work through most of the forgiveness. I can't think of anybody else that I can forgive. I've managed to settle a lot of those things, but trying to be of service, man, Roger, the thought of that is just terrifying to me.
I'm getting the message to you from the other side. Not yet.
Oh. Phew. Thank you, other side. Thank you.
Doesn't mean you're not going. Doesn't mean you're not going to. You know, I'm not. I know
Okay.
you probably are already, but it
Okay.
means that just because
I've
it's not
got
happened
time.
yet doesn't mean it's not going to.
Okay.
Seriously, it's just came to me now. Not yet.
take
doesn't mean
baby
you-
steps.
Baby steps, as I keep saying. Yeah, baby steps.
Baby steps. And like right
And you-
now, I mean, look at it. We're sitting here having a conversation. You're helping somebody. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
just baby steps.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, it is.
well, I think we've come to the hour, man.
Yeah.
Oh wow,
Oh,
we
very
have.
enjoyable that was.
We have. That was so interesting.
Yeah.
It was so interesting.
It's just the same as last week's subject. It was like, what are we going to talk about for an hour? And yet, suddenly, the same as this week. I thought, oh, I only had a little bit to share. And it was like, what are we going to talk about? You know, and poof, it's gone, isn't it? The hour's
dread
gone
it.
again.
I dread these every minute because, like, you guys come up with all these these topics, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to say more stuff about myself. That's just insane. And then,
Oh Roger, you are so interesting.
So I think next week's topic is Roger gets spiritual. I think it's next week's topic. I think.
no. So you started us out. You're gonna have to end it, Bob Dub.
Oh, I'm going to have to end it.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Okay, now that was springing something on me. I need an hour to prepare. Okay, well, that was a fantastic talk. Thank you so much,
Yeah,
Roger and
yeah.
John. I mean, my brain is buzzing. And so thank you everybody who's joined us, and we will be back again next week with another really interesting discussion which will occur to us during the week.
Yeah.
So thank you all for joining us, and thank you also, John and Roger. Thank you so much for your wisdom and your compassion and your insight, and for jumping down here in the hole with us. It's very cool of you.
Thank
So-
you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye now.
I talk